In finishing off our look at chapter 13, the setting, I'd like to turn to page 114. What happens here is Felix and Barney have snuck out of the cellar, Barney's cellar. They're going to look for water. He stops in the hallway of a house. His shoulders slump. I see what's caught his eye. On the floor is a Jewish candlestick, the type that holds a row of candles. It's completely squashed as if someone stamped on it. This place belongs to a friend of mine, says Barney quietly. It's a dental surgery. So we have a Jewish candlestick here. The Jewish candlestick is called a menorah. Here is a picture of a menorah. It is a 7 candle holder. It has 7 arms or 7 branches. It's closely related to the Jewish religion. It was part of the furniture in the temple, and you can read about that in Exodus 25 verses 31 through 40, that the big candlestick, 7-fold candlestick, is part of the temple. Looking at the characters in chapter 13, we're going to start with Barney. And we can see that at the beginning of the chapter, you should underline this. Try these, said Barney. He hands me a pair of boots. I stare at them in the candlelight. They're almost new. So Barney gives him a pair of boots. But Felix, who's a compassionate kid, looks down at Barney's shoes. They're both split, open, and wound round with rope. All right, Barney says quietly, I'll tell you the truth. I got you the boots because everyone deserves to have something good in their life at least once. I don't know what to say, says Felix. It's one of the kindest things I've ever heard. Here is an example of Barney's kindness, giving almost new boots to Felix, despite the fact that he has broken boots himself. It's kind of a selflessness. He's gone through a sacrifice. He's sacrificed himself for the good of Felix. It's a kindness that Felix has not heard of before. When Barney goes to the dentist's, his friends, and they stumble over the fact that a child of his friends has been shot in the high chair. Felix freaks out about this, and so does Barney. She says Barney, he sounds like he's sobbing too. Barney is shaking. He hugs hard. His voice is shaking as well. Barney has great anguish about this situation. And he tells Felix, parents can't protect their kids even though they love them more than anything in the world. Barney's tears are falling on him. Barney is he's carrying a lot of pain and a lot of anguish, and he's doing his best in an impossible situation where his friends are being killed, his friends' children has been killed, and he's looking after the ones that he can, and he's feeling the weight of this. And the best quote for that is on page 119. The other Jews didn't believe him about the death camps. They didn't believe the man from the death camps, not even after the Nazis killed him. There's a great weight that Barney's carrying, that his people, the Jewish people around him, aren't seeing things for what's really happening. And I need to be alive so I can take care of you and the others. It's on Barney's face, I can see it. Barney is kind, but he's also carrying great pressure and responsibility and mourning the death of people. And it's affecting him, the cruelty and the barbarity that he's surrounded by. So on page 115, we see Felix. Felix has a plan. He's overheard about the countryside. Of course, he went from the countryside to the city looking for his parents. He now believes that his parents are in the countryside. I didn't say anything more about the countryside. I know what I'm going to do. Once me and Barney have found some water and got it back to the cellar, I'm going to finish writing my African story and give it to the Nazi officer, ask him which bit of the countryside Mum and Dad have been taken to. Then I'm going to wake Zelda up and we'll go there on his own. Felix has a plan. The plan is still focused around finding his parents, but he takes very seriously his responsibilities with Zelda. We've also seen that Felix can be very kind to Barney. He comforts him. He says on page 118 that he strokes his hand because Barney needs the comfort as well. But the real character development that occurs in chapter 13 for Felix has been building through the whole of the novel so far. And here is a climax point on page 119. It's a climax point because through the use of dramatic irony, we as readers know that Felix's parents have passed away. They're dead. They've been killed by Nazis. And here is the point where Felix finally realizes this. It's on Barney's face. I can see it. he's telling the truth. Oh, Mum, oh, Dad, my imagination goes into a frenzy trying to think up ways for them to escape, places for them to hide, reasons why none of this has happened to them. Every time I start to think of something, I remember the poor little kid in the kitchen. It's finally dawning on him, seeing a child of 2 years of age sitting in a high chair having been shot, and realizing that these people hate Jews. They're anti-Semitic, they're Jew haters. His imagination goes into a frenzy trying to avoid the obvious conclusion, but he's beginning to realize, finally, that his parents are dead. One of the ways in which drama is calmed down at the end, one of the ways in which this chapter's drama one of the literary features that's used to create drama right at the end of this passage, after he realizes and his imagination goes into a frenzy, is alliteration. So what we see here is kid kitchen, pocket pressing, suddenly stick syringes. We see right here also words that sound the same: deep sleep, eep, at the end of both of them. This repetition of sounds, really adds drama to the end of this. It's almost like poetry at the end of this, and that's what a literary device can do. So there's quite intelligent writing right at the end of this passage. Themes that are mentioned in the 13th chapter of Once are about confronting the truth, the difficulty of accepting reality, particularly when it's painful. A dead baby certainly is a very tragic thing to occur. Very few people could think of anything worse than dead children, and that is the image of which this young boy Felix has to come to terms with. The other theme, though, is despite brutal anti-Semitism, is the kindness that Barney shows to Felix and the care and compassion he shows to Felix even when he's in pain.